Well, Noam Chomsky, at 91 years old, is still doing his thing. He recently blasted Donald Trump and spoke out against the criminal sanctions against Iran. And that's all to the good. Chomsky is very interesting, well-informed for the most part, and acerbic commentator. And I have to agree with much of what he said, including when he called Donald Trump a sociopathic buffoon. I think that's quite accurate. He pointed out that the U.S. response to the coronavirus pandemic has been the worst in the world, which is probably also true. He said that Trump and his minions are racing to the abyss, and he pointed out that beyond the coronavirus threat, there are two even more immense threats: nuclear war and global warming. So this kind of critique of U.S. policy is, of course, useful as far as it goes. However, where I would differ from Chomsky, and where I've differed with him in the past, is that I think that he often doesn't go beneath the surface of the mainstream reporting of what's supposedly happening in the world. For instance, in this case, he mentioned that there is this threat of nuclear war, but he didn't mention the fact that it's quite likely that the coronavirus pandemic is the result of biological warfare, whether a deliberate attack designed to destroy the world economy, which is the engine of Chinese economic growth, which will lead to China's overtaking the U.S. as the world's top power, unless the global economy is destroyed, as coronavirus is at least one step towards destroying it. And he hasn't mentioned the threat of biological weapons, which are right up there with nuclear weapons, given the advances in genetic engineering. One would have expected that Chomsky would use the coronavirus crisis to say, look, maybe this just escaped from a lab, but we know that the statements in The Lancet and Nature magazine that claim that this couldn't be a biological weapon are ridiculous lies that the authors of those pieces do not believe themselves. They couldn't possibly believe, because anyone with a high school science education or even elementary logic training can see that that argument is a straw man and it's completely bogus. So why are they lying in this way? Chomsky should be pointing out that our whole global economy has been destroyed by what's likely a biological weapon, and that this means that we need to put teeth in the Biological Weapons Convention, because the threat from bioweapons is every bit as bad as the threat from nuclear weapons. He didn't say that. Why not? Well, he has a pattern of not saying the thing that could mobilize useful action in the wake of the worst crimes of the U.S. and Israeli national security states. He has spent his life denying the obvious fact that John F. Kennedy was murdered in a coup d'etat by right-wing American military forces in alliance with Israel, and that one of the biggest purposes was to stop Kennedy from stopping the Israeli nuclear program. He also spent the past 2 decades lying about the fact that 9/11 is obviously a false flag inside job by exactly the same forces that murdered President Kennedy. And he has ridiculed those of us who tell the truth about this. Why is Chomsky allergic to speaking the truth about the most important subjects that would get the most powerful emotional resonance going among the American people and lead to actual policy changes that would radically reform this sociopathic U.S. empire that he criticizes? Is he not as intelligent as he appears? Or is he, as Professor Anthony Hall's article series puts it, a disinfo agent for Israel and or the American deep state? Personally, I just don't know. I think maybe he's just trying to preserve his place at the table, where he is allowed to get major media coverage for saying these things that don't go to the heart of the matter.